Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and this time we're going to be talking about one of the most beloved, awesome pieces of Star Wars literature that unfortunately has been branded into legends and is now part of the old canon, but I don't see why this story can't still be considered part of the Disney canon. And I'm talking about the Darth Plagueis novelization by James Luceno. This is created by an author that really understands Star Wars, understands light and dark, the Force, and especially the Sith. If you're a huge fan of the Sith, the story of Palpatine, the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, we get to see all of that in this book. And the story is told in such an incredible way that really world builds the time period of the prequels, more specifically, everything leading up to the Phantom Menace and the events that we see in that film. And it really adds so much great context to those movies. So, Darth Plagueis, the novelization, tells the story of a young Palpatine training under Darth Plagueis. It tells a story of how Darth Plagueis overtook his master and then ultimately would be overtaken by Palpatine, an event that is first referenced in the conversation between Palpatine and Anakin Skywalker in Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine tells Anakin the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. And what's interesting is when you go back and watch that scene after reading this novelization, it really paints a clear picture that Palpatine wasn't necessarily exaggerating or enhancing the legend of Darth Plagueis any more than the real life events did. Darth Plagueis was very powerful in the dark side, and he was very smart. And the modern Star Wars Sith approach of using things such as politics, wealth, status, things of that nature to obtain power rather than pure brutality and strength is an idea that Plagueis really leans heavily into. He lives a complete alternate ego as a banker, as someone of status, Hugo Damask, and Palpatine would later do the same thing as being this very charismatic politician, becoming a senator, becoming the chancellor of the republic. And it's really through Plagueis's vision that all of this transpires. Now, Palpatine has his own designs, he has his own ambitions, and it is interesting to see the moments in the novel where the two kind of clash in their philosophies. It seems that Palpatine is not a fan of revering the older legends of the Sith and how they obtain their power, whereas Plagueis does hold that in regard, but tends to question Palpatine's conviction at a few different points. Something that would ultimately come back to bite Plagueis when Palpatine gets him drunk on the night that he is elected Chancellor and kills him in his sleep. And I think my favorite part about the entire novelization is just how well it fits into the context of The Phantom Menace. You're able to go back and watch that movie in a whole new light, knowing what's going on behind the scenes. The fact that Plagueis is active and alive during most of that film, being killed off after the election, and Palpatine taking Darth Maul is talked about in the novelization as well, as he's kind of brought on as an acolyte or an assassin. Plagueis does not really see his potential as a true apprentice, therefore, he's kind of caught off guard when Palpatine kills him and Maul is unofficially made his new apprentice. But it really tells a story of Plagueis's own pride and ego in trying to manipulate the Force itself, and the result of that being the Force fighting back by creating this child, this chosen one that would later be known to be Anakin Skywalker. And Plagueis is very set in his plan. He is very confident in the Sith's ability to rise again and destroy the Jedi. But he seems to lose the role of Palpatine in all of this. As a Sith Lord who betrayed his own master, who, mind you, his master, Darth Tenebris, never believed that Plagueis would have the conviction to actually go through with betraying him, let alone being powerful enough to do so. and he does that using trickery and his own master's arrogance against him. That is a great scene, one of the best from the novelization. And like I said, it's definitely worth a read if you're a fan of the Sith and how the Sith operate, the prequel trilogy, Palpatine, and just learning more about the lore of how everything that was a part of Palpatine's plan fell into place. Then I highly recommend checking out the Darth Plagueis novel by James Luceno. That's going to be all I got for you this time. I appreciate you watching the video. If you like what we do here, consider hitting that subscribe button. And as always, may the Force be with you, and let's blow up that like button and go home.